my friend, it's Pat Sloan here. We have the organizing of our quilt along. The first one we're doing with Tiny Secrets from this book. There's a kit, and I'm going to show you the pattern in the book. I'll show you a little bit more about the book, and then every Thursday in June we will sew sections. And this is a really fun, fast, easy one, so I know some of you will probably just zoom ahead. You'll just keep going. I'm also going to have a Q&A at the end, so you want to be sure to stay for that. These are the questions that you have asked me, and it's part 2, and there will be 2 more parts that I will spread out in June. So I'll spread them out, just 2 different days in June. And I want to be sure that you downloaded your project calendar for June. I have a link in the description box and in the pinned post, or you can just go right to I Love to Make Quilts, and right at the top, little boxes of different places to go is the project stuff. You can get this. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is the quilt that we're doing. It is called the Constellation in the book and North Star for the kit. And that's how the Fat Quarter Shop does it. Whenever they do a kit for a pattern that's in different fabrics than were in the original, they rename it. And I think that just helps with some, people getting confused because it's not the same fabrics as in the original one that they did for wherever the pattern is. So this is what we're doing, and we're using Tiny Secrets, my new fabric line with Benartex, and all of the different shades of blue. First, here just 2 of the fabrics so that you can see them. One of the fabrics in the kit for the blue from Tiny Secrets has all of the critters in it. I'm just loving this so much. Look at the owl. Look at him. Look at him. Oh, love, love, love it. And the bunny. And then here is the sort of meadow floral. So pretty, right? Okay, so let's look at the pattern, and then what we're going to do after that, I'll just show you a few other of the projects. We are going to be doing our project from the half yard book. Every quilt in here uses a half yard. This is a Sew Emma, which is the publication from Fat Quarter Shop. So it has all of their great directions and formatting, similar to what their single patterns are that you see all the time from the free patterns and their paid patterns. So there's 16 different quilts, and we are doing, towards the back here, the Constellation. So this is the supply list. Cover that up, and they've got nice cutting directions. It shows you exactly how to cut the pieces. These are large pieces, which I'll be showing you next Thursday. We'll be doing this every Thursday, but I want to show you here the layout of how it goes together, so that you can get a feel for what we'll do each week. This is how it goes together. So you can see that these are a row, and here's a row. So you've got 2 rows that are the same, and then you have the center row down here. And they are done in chunks. So this is a repeated in the 4 corners, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you've got these kind of, arrowheads, and then your center square. So we'll be doing, I believe it is the corner units first. Yeah, it's the corner units first, and then like these arrowheads on week 2. Then we'll do the rows week 3, and then have the final, it does have an outer border on it. So let me just stick this back here again, so you can see now. So it's got a nice, I love framing them like this, where you get this nice outer border. Yeah, it's so pretty. So each of the the last one won't be so much instruction, but the first 2, I'll show part of the unit going together. Like maybe there's a part that might, there's kind of like the angles. I'll show you how I approach it. The directions are very clear. And then, so this is a really fun sew. The shapes are really big, so you just have a lot of fun with your fabric. I want to show you just a few others in here. You will note that because we're using a limited number of fabrics, being that they're half yard pieces, you get to see the fabric in repeat, which a lot of you super love. You really love being able to do that with your fabric. And you might have bought like half yard pieces of a collection that you really loved, or things you put together. So this one, it's like looks like shooting stars, what do they call it? Comet. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So isn't that awesome? Look at that. And of course, you don't have to use the white background for yours. You could do, you know, like a light blue or some other thing, depending on what your, you know, your colors are. This one is, I'm sorry, I can't read that upside down. Mirage. This is Mirage. See, now this is a great one for a collection. You can see the repeat. Green, 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 red, 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 red. So it gets to be turquoise, 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 turquoise. So you get to see that fabrics in multiple places. And it's not scrappy, but it is, you know, varied. It looks so good. You know, I like that kind of look. That's kind of my thing. And then, whoops, here we go. Here we go. This one is called Woodland. I love this format here. This kind of treatment on the outer edge where you have that, the points, and then it's darker with the contrast of the lighter interior. And again, the fabric is spread across, like here you can see the same fabrics. There you can see the same fabrics. And then I'll show you one more from in here called Reflection. I really want you to see this one because of the like gingham. I think that looks like a gingham they used. And then there's 4 pinks making up these stars, and then the gingham to hold it all together. That is so effective. Once again, this is the book that we're using, the Half Yard Quilts. Half Yard Quilts. Okay, now I have got part 2 of our Q&A. Round 2 for the questions from the other day. And just a reminder, I had pulled them all on the previous Saturday at noon. And so if your question doesn't appear over the next, you know, few weeks as I do these, just, you know, it might have been something I wasn't going to answer, or I just missed it, you know, that kind of a thing. So we'll go through here and do some more fun questions. So Cheryl says, what is my process for designing a quilt layout for my quilt-alongs? Do I use quilt software? Do I have I tried? Do I just use the same layouts? Well, I assume that you've been watching my videos, but maybe you haven't. So I have in the past showed you exactly how I go through things, and the computer software. Of course, I use computer software. It would be absolutely insane to design without it nowadays. And I have used computer software for 25 years. I actually am a software engineer. That is my training. And I worked 20 years in computers before I quit and started my business. So, yeah, I use computers. And I do not use a tried and true layout. There, you know, obviously there's a couple like, you know, just blocks with sashing, but for all of my unique layouts, they're all custom done as I'm working on them. And I have actually gone through and shown you different things, particularly when I was doing the critter quilts. I went through that once with you. And the software I use is gone from publication. The people who created it, the company was purchased by somebody else who then discontinued it because it was competition. Nice, right? So I use it because it still works. The day that it stops working, I might have to retire because I'm not learning a new one. So Kathy said, what is my favorite traditional quilt block? For years and years and years, I've loved the Churn Dash. The Churn Dash is my favorite traditional quilt block. If all of you have a favorite traditional quilt block, leave it here at YouTube. I think we would love to see each other's favorite traditional block. Kim wanted to know, do I have a regular group of quilters that I meet with for fun? Yes, and I've shown you that on the videos here. Even very recently, in the past couple of weeks, when I was putting together my rolling card to take for local sewing, and I told you all about it, and I told you all about the red featherweight, my Duchess, and how I'm using it and all that. So go back and watch the videos if you're new to my videos. I've talked all about them. It's really wonderful to have a local group, so I hope you do as well. And if you have a local group and want to share about it here, I'd love to hear. Okay, Barb says, when you use a fat quarter bundle for a large quilt, how do you decide on the bundle you will use? Are there certain kinds of prints or colors? All right, so this is not an easy question to answer. I'll give you kind of the Cliff Notes for those of you, the short version. If you don't know what Cliff Notes are, this is a summary. When I started my career in this business 25 years ago, when I started this business 25 years ago, actually even before that, Several years before that, I was already starting to do work with the magazines while I worked my corporate job in computers. The whole concept was to take a fabric collection, which is a fat quarter bundle, if you use one by a designer, take that collection and showcase it in a quilt. So I kind of have trained my brain to work like that for many years. And usually a collection needs you to add in a little bit of something, so I do that and have done that for a long time. But the process is unique to each collection. I do not have any kind of formula. Everything is just what I look at and what I like. So I really can't, there isn't a set answer for that, but maybe that gives you a feel for how I think. Judy says, the organization I work with does not like white in donation quilts. What other color colors make, what other color backgrounds make your colors pop? I can understand that. Depending on what the organization, who they're donating to, they may feel that the people they're donating the quilt to don't want to use a quilt with white in it because it'll get dirty. People who aren't familiar with quilts. So I can totally understand that. Lots of jewel tones pop on black. Or dark gray. If you have other tones, try different shades of gray. Sometimes gray will work really well. If they don't like white, do they like, is tan okay? There's loads of beigey, more tan colors that really work well with fabrics. I worked like that for many years when I did folk art, because we didn't use white in folk art things. It was more tea-dyed and that tan look. You can also ask in the community here, or leave it here at YouTube and ask. Rosetta asks, what sew-in interfacing do I use for turned applique? I don't do turned applique. I don't use sew-in interfacing. I use fusible applique by machine, and I do heat and bond light. So ask that question as your own new post within my group, and then people who do that type of applique can help you out. Susanna says, let's see, this is interesting. What do you feel is the most valuable skill and tool a quilter can have? Grace, flexibility, being non-judgmental of others, being forgiving of yourself and others. These are all life traits, right? They're life traits, but they will serve you well as a quilt maker. If you're looking for a sewing skill, that infamous getting your 1/4 inch and your block, the units the right size, is going to cause you less frustration. Being super flexible, like if something isn't working out, make adjustments. Those are the kinds of things that I think are good. You can answer other things, all of you, in the comments. Okay, Judy says, have we seen how you store your sewing machine threads? Yes, you have. I need to pare mine down. Does it get old and weak? That's 2 questions. Okay, I store my threads in boxes, these red boxes, and the boxes stack, because I have lots and lots of thread, and they're all thread for the regular sewing machine. I don't work off of cones like long armers do, or some of you that don't use a lot of different thread colors. You just buy a big cone of white and you use it. So I keep mine in a box. And do they break down over time? I would imagine the cotton will probably rot some, I don't know, 60, 70 years from now. I don't know. You could write to some of the thread manufacturers and ask them and see if they have any kind of analysis of that. But I don't know. So let's see. Margaret says, what is the hardest part of my work? It can be fun, but sometimes you juggle so many projects. How do you do that? Thanks for all you share. Thank you for being so sweet. And how you keep us all excited project to project. Okay, so the hardest part, I don't sew all day. And nobody ever does. And you ask a shop owner, do they sew? Like, they'll probably laugh at you. They're like, no, no, no. The hardest part is probably having to, just track the business stuff. People who are creative and artistic, not that I'm not really that artistic, but they, doing the math and the accounting and all that other stuff is very, tedious and unfun. It's not fun, not fun. Right now, I am having a lot of technical problems with the site where my website is. And so that's very, 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 very frustrating and time consuming because it's just not working well and they can't seem to fix it and won't fix it or whatever the issue is. So, that's the kind of behind the scenes stuff, but that's boring. You don't want to hear that. That's kind of like, who wants to talk work? You don't want to talk work. This is your hobby. This is your hobby. Janice, how do you decide if you will separate a fat quarter bundle? I'm still working out my system. I will keep a bundle intact if I have something planned for it. I think that's what most people do. If you have something planned for the bundle, you keep it together. I know a designer, Susan Aki, who as soon as she gets a bundle in, she separates it and she sorts it by color because she works in a very specific color palette and that works for her to have the variety, and she doesn't really care. She has a lot of scrappy. She doesn't really care that it works together. I work with it together. That's how my brain likes to handle it. So I keep it together until I use it, pretty much. And then, once I've used it once, I'll keep the parts that I want to keep and disperse the rest into, charities or whatever. Okay, let me do a couple of the other fun non-quilting questions. Sharon wants to know where I get all my tops. I did do a list over on my About page that tells you, but I get them all kinds of places. And so, and some of them I've had for years since I was on the road teaching. A few of them I still have from then. But I've gotten them at Chico's. I've gotten them at Coldwater Creek. I've gotten them at J. Jill. I've gotten them at Kohl's. I've gotten them in boutiques when I was on the road. I've gotten them on Amazon. So, it's not one spot. I don't buy all my clothes in one place. Let's see, Kathy says, if I were going to have a dream vacation that did not involve quilting, what would it be? I know the answer to that. First of all my vacations are not quilting. I quilt for a business and I get enough. I need a break from it. I really will not go and even go into stores or anything with any of that if I'm on vacation. That's not vacation, that's work. My brain goes into work mode. It just shifts as soon as it sees that stuff. So, but I really enjoy cruises. I've done quite a few of them, Greg and I. We did them where I taught on them, and then we did them for personal. And I really enjoy them because there's not, it's a very fun environment. Everything's kind of all together, and I really enjoy that type of environment. For me, it's very relaxing. I enjoy the ocean, looking out, enjoy the stops. So, cruises have always been one of my favorites. If I were not going to do a cruise, then I'm not really sure because I really haven't done a vacation like that in quite a long time. That was always our go-to vacation, and when we were on the road, and then I really have not taken anything since 2020. So I haven't really taken that kind of, unless you go, a family thing, you go see family, but that's not vacation as you, maybe it is for some people, but it's like, break is a break, like no commitments, no deadlines, no meeting anybody, that's my idea of a perfect vacation. Just Greg and I, no commitments. So it doesn't really matter where I am, does it? Tell me about your dream vacation. And it probably involves quilting because that's your hobby, and it should involve quilting if you wanted to. Okay, so that was part 2. I have 2 other pages of questions, and I will do those on another day, and maybe in June I'll spread them out. I'll probably end up with a 3rd page, so I'll spread them out instead of maybe do one a week. or something every so often. Thank you everybody on sending these questions. So fun, so fun. Remember, there's at least 2 more parts. I think that'll probably be it in June. And I'll sprinkle them out so they're not so close together like these 2. And this here, why do I have the flip-flop quilt up that I did? That is one, because today is flip-flop day. So if you have a flip-flop quilt, share it here, we'll share it at our Facebook group, Quilt Along with Pat Sloan, so everybody can see. Mine was designed for a cruise that I taught on. Of course, flip-flops, right? And then it was actually published in McCall's magazine because they were the people hosting the cruise. So, all right, my friend, we are kicking off. You're getting organized, you're getting your fabric, you're getting book out, you're taking a look at things. If you pre-wash your fabric, do that. Get everything ready so that next week we will sew those first sections. So I love you. Mwah. Thank you for being here in the Sloan Zone. I will see you online.